January 26, 286.5. $1.20 from where we are. So today or tomorrow.
The other thing I would say about that SC is you look at the chart at 45.91.
So yesterday, after a quick little flush, so about 283.25, we popped to 284. Failed the first time. Second time we got above, but we also pulled back a few cents. Then at 11:30, we worked our way towards 285, where people were waiting to sell a little bit here. Closed above 284.5, now gapping above 285 this morning.
So for a minute, we'll get the weekly.
So if there's some selling pressure on the open, it's 285 to 284.85. Buyers want to step up again. In the afternoon, pullback low was 284.40. Buyers really just in complete control since we bounced off that 279 the other day. Big move off the bottom. Slow, steady. A little bit more accelerated here. Just consolidation. So, all right, IWM continues to underperform the SPYs, relatively speaking, because it's moving sideways instead of through the recent high. It's still very strong. So here was the recent high. Now we're coming into where we kind of got hammered from was it last week? The 27th, so 2 weeks ago.
No.
What I would pay attention to is if we get above this 168, we're above it for 10-15 minutes. It's probably worth it, putting on a long trade to see if we work our way back up here. Below 167 would be interesting to me on IWM.
But if it's like kind of just like
Here.
if it opens like weak.
All right, so a lot going on. A lot of stocks gapping up and down this morning. Twilio was the one people are probably most familiar with. IPO'd a couple of years ago, was a really hot IPO. Went into the 70s, or let's see what it went to.
How is the 46 holding?
It went to 70.
Is it defending?
Very hot IPO, got above 30, went straight to 40, then consolidated. Second leg took it up to 65. Made a new high before they just obliterated it very quickly down to $30. And then it just, I mean, I was definitely looking for it to bottom here in this area here. It never got back above 35 until made a new low. And then here, once it gapped up, this earnings report here, where it gapped to just below 30 and got above. And then it took out this resistance area from like a year. It never looked back. I mean, it almost did a retest of the breakout. This was last quarter. It was last quarter, gapped to 50. And now it's gapping above 70. So incredible comeback. Anybody who bought it in this base here in the mid-20s and actually held it is psyched. It's almost tripled now in not even 6 months, or 6 months, I guess. It's incredible. So we talked about the pattern. I talked about this the other day. The pattern now has been for the last few weeks. Things with good numbers, like gap above highs, they're not reversing. Even if they pull back $2-3 in the open, they're then making new highs. And so that's the pattern. Until that changes, we got to remember that. So I watched it when the news initially came out. Heard the numbers, figured it would pop above 70. It did. So I put 72 as support on the sheet, which was this kind of where it was lagging when it first went up. They were definitely buying it in the after hours at 72.50 here. It's really this, like right here would be the first support. And if they really wanted to smack it on the open, they'd smack it down to 70, prior high, look for bids to step in. So again, the pattern has been stocks like this, making new highs, good guidance, they gap up. Even if there's that usual profit taking on the open, then they go and they make new highs. What would different would look like something like goes down, it tries to bounce, it fails like here, and then it gets below 70. That would be, interesting. And again, I'm not talking about just drop 70 a little bit and then gets right back above. I'm talking about some serious weakness below 70, down to like 69 and a half, 69. And then I'd start to think about, people are like, wow, this thing's just tripled in the last 6 months. Let's take some profits, and maybe it trades down to the mid 60s in basis for a while before going back up into the 70s, something like that. Again, less likely scenario, but that's what I would need to see for it to, for my things to light up. Next one is Zillow. And Zillow is really bad to the point where when they were releasing guidance, people weren't sure if it was comparable to the actual estimates and numbers. But I think it was right. These are actually real numbers that they did. And so we need to think about kind of where this was, what this thing has been doing for the last year. So we know it did get to 50 last summer, and it sold off to 38, basically. And when it got above 43, it gapped up to 46. Did it retest down here at 43? I guess I put 42.65 on this sheet to be precise, but that's the support right here. And where we are right now, where are we? 49. So we're above this support. So these are kind of the interesting support here. I mean, this would be more for like over the next week or two if the institutions start to dump it over the next few days. But for today, if it gets dumped today, this would be the spot I'd be looking at.
All right. So,
So news came out. It actually, it did actually go down to almost 46 in the after hours. It was 47. It made a little bit of a higher low here. So right now the buyers are trying to do a little. As bad as the numbers are, I think people are probably thinking it could be down 20, 25%. Down 15% right now. It's interesting. It went down to this support area here. It bounced back up to 50, which is the natural spot where you'd look for it to fail into a bounce. So I'm pretty much going to look for a replay of what happened in the after hours in this few-minute time span, which is in a bounce, fails up here somewhere between 50 and 51, and starts to hold below 49, and then play it all the way back down to the pre-market low, and see what happens. And stay short unless it kind of bottoms here. It starts to hold back above, I would say, $48, kind of breaks the downtrend. Something different would be like spike up here to 52 on the open, and then doesn't really pull back much, and then takes out 52. And that's really a shake off of the news. Which I don't see why I would do that, but again, the lower probability thing, same thing as Twilio, but we need to consider what that looked like. And again, it's down $9 right now, so a bounce to 51.5, it's still down $6.50. Still down a lot. Quite often you'll see that bottom fishing right in the first few minutes before the sellers start to take over, and then they have kind of their VWAP sell all day programs. Especially the momentum guys, like, so many of these momentum stocks are reporting decent numbers and good guidance or okay guidance. For a momentum stock like this to be lowering guidance. It's almost like, why wouldn't you get the heck out of this one and just focus on the ones that are doing fine, like Twilio? So Weight Watchers is a different one, WTW. This is just really a question of it just ran up so much. I think the reason why it initially got hammered like that is they beat by 13%, but they only raised the guidance by 6%. So it's almost like they're saying, yeah, we're going to raise guidance, but not as much as we just reported, so things might be slowing down. And when the stock has just gone from, in the last few months, from 60 to 100, that gives people some pause. And then also, it's kind of this intermediate uptrend. They're like, oh, maybe it'll break this. So I put this on the sheet, the 85 support. And I put 88 as well. I forget which one of these gaps was the new television contract. It might have been this move right here. I think we talked about this day here where I said, oh, maybe it'll move. And it went from 79 to like 85. So people bought into that. And then we consolidated for a week. And that was the beginning of the move to 100. So it's okay, and this is just a case of it getting a little bit ahead of itself. The fundamentals are still really strong. It's still in a really strong uptrend. Here's a longer one. Let's see. Just maybe accelerated a little bit. So I guess it's possible it could work its way back down to 75.80. I'm talking over the medium term, not today. Today, you can see the buyer stepped in here. It actually flushed through 85, got back above, went all the way up to 90. And now it's really just a question of, is it going to fail here at this 90? What do I have on the sheet? So I guess, do I have 90 as inflection? Yes. So this is kind of the inflection. If it starts to hold above there, breaks to the upside, play it for the move to it's 92 and then 94. And if it fails here on the open at 90, we have our first support. We have 88, and then we have here. I'm kind of agnostic about it. I guess bigger picture, I think it's really strong. A strong bounce off the lows like this is pretty bullish to me. So I guess my first thought would be it can hold here, and then maybe it'll take out that 90 and go to 92, something like that. But I'm open to it, pulling back down here. I'm just not counting on it at all. We'll see what happens right on the open. And then ARY is a lower price stock. They got the breakthrough drug therapy designation for one of their drugs. Colon cancer, obviously, this is a very common cancer. It's become less over, I think, the last couple of decades with people getting checked, at least in the US, getting colonoscopies when they're 50. But it's still like a very wide, well-known cancer. It kills a lot of people. And so this, just looking at the stock, it's done well over the last couple of years. It topped out here at 13. I'm sure we probably looked at it here. It held that high here and then again back in May 18th before running up to 20. So really the question, I guess, is were people expecting this breakthrough designation? If they were, then it's probably not going to go much higher than where it is in the free market. To this area right here. So let's zoom in. I guess I'd use this 16. I do have 16 on the sheet of support. If it comes off here and they actually are buying it here, I give it a shot. But it's possible the news was expected. What it would look like if the news isn't expected is buyers step in and they very quickly start to push and hold above 16.5. Then you have the next S2 and S3 on the sheet. And then finally X-Ray, another stock that's getting obliterated. The numbers were so bad, I I don't even know what to say about the EPS was like, they were expected to make a profit and some massive loss. And I'm sure they're saying it's some sort of one-time charge thing or something. I don't think the analysts have any idea what to make of it. Let's just look at the longer term. So I rarely trade this stock. I kind of remember when it was down in the 30s. So you can just see how jagged it, like, it wasn't an up channel for a while. The market kind of, I guess they reported some bad numbers here last summer. And somehow it made a new high. And I guess they were anticipating these really bad numbers coming into this because it was down 30, 40%, something like that. It's 42, 7, 68, 26, 40%. And so now it's gapping to $40. So this would be the new 2018 low, hasn't been here for 5 years. So I had 40 on the sheet, and then really below that, I didn't have anything till 35. Again, these are so many years ago. I'm not sure any of these levels really matter now that it's taken out the 2018 low. Just a question of how many people from 68 down to 42 got out of it already. If that many more people don't need to get out of it, maybe that's what actually creates the bounce. But 20% guide down. Eesh. So just want to see where it's been the last couple of months. So in March, it was in the 50s. So let's call it 55, down at 40. It's like 28%, down 28% since the spring. They guided down 20. Clearly, they were expecting something bad. If they were expecting this, what would it do? It would probably bounce up back up to 43, 44 over the next couple of days. Certainly the first thing I would look for, if this was expected, the first thing I would look for is, does it get back above the prior low? That's the first thing you look for. And if it gets above that, it kind of hangs out up here and then breaks to the upside, and play it for a move to this pivot low down at 43, 43.20. So, but there definitely were clues there, and obviously this move coming into earnings that some pretty bad news was expected. And then on the second day technicals, JAC, I didn't do a lot in this after the open. Again, it fit the pattern of things that would close at the high. Good news, gapping near the prior high. And so that's kind of why I jumped in a little bit above. I wanted to buy at 68. I think my script was at 68 to buy a lot. But then on the open, I noticed it wasn't going there. It was printing middle of the market with a wide spread, and I went high bid, and some fool hit me. Got really lucky. Turned out I was lucky at the time. Who knew? So I just noticed it was printing at 68.5, even though the bid was like 68.30, I think. So I went high bid to 68.40. That's me probably getting hit this little wick right here at 9.32. And then immediately it was like $1 higher. Then it kind of, so this is me getting hit right there. This is the spike. And then this is the bid stepping up here a little bit. And then eventually, what I wanted to point out to you, the reason I wanted to talk about this for a minute was, so it got to 71, which I think was our first resistance on the sheet, or maybe the second one, I don't remember. But when it got there, they were buying it at 70.50 for a while, and I'm sure people were like, okay, I'll put a stop below 70.40. And this was nasty, which was good. You got stopped at a pretty good price. It spiked all the way down. I don't even know how this happened. It went down $1. I guess somebody sold 100,000 shares and people just pulled the bids. See the spike in volume here at 10:30. If you want to get back in this situation, you get stopped out, and it gets back above. I would say you could buy it back right here, but if you want to do the conservative thing, I would wait for it to consolidate really tight back up at 71, or the break above the morning high. And so it did actually do that. It got up to 71, and then the buyers finally stepped up here. So you finally got, if you go to a 5 minute, you can see very clearly this is kind of what I look for to like, okay, this was a wick out. Like the buyer did step back up pretty quickly to 50 cents, and now they're stepping up to 70 cents. And you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bars. This is what we look for. 5-minute bars, tight horizontal. This is exactly what you want before a break to the upside. This is like textbook after 10 a.m. breakout of a strong stock. And it went up like $1 pretty quickly. So I just wanted to show that to you because this is kind of what I look for in a strong stock. I'm looking to play for a second leg. And then for today, I would say 72. Can I put that on the sheet? Yeah, it was really conservative. Oh, I guess it was like 72 right at the close. So I guess right on the open, if it flushes kind of below 72, you can pick some up closer to 71, and then it's holding above 72, or right on the open, it doesn't really drop the bid at 72, and you see the bid step up from 72, that would be kind of the signal for a little follow through. I put 73 as resistance because that was just the high yesterday. And then ICPT, even my resistance levels ended up being very conservative, right? So it never really tested any of the spots we would have looked to buy. It was just straight up on the open to R1. And so if you wanted to, get involved in this one after it failed at R1, first thing you would look for is, what does it do in this spot here? Does it hold this when it comes back? Yes. Went through a little bit, got back above. So you're either looking for this first green bar from 108, or you're waiting for it to break out and hold above 110, which was R1. You had that. It's R2. It did the test of R1. It held, failed again, tested again, and then the second time it broke through and went up. So again, really strong stock. You look at the long-term chart, you see next major resistance not to like 130. Strong opening drive. If it breaks out through our resistance on the sheet, and it comes back and tests and holds that, that's kind of your signal, like maybe it can have another up leg. And the same thing today, like if it comes in, they flush it down to here, to 112, gets below, gets back above, maybe it actually goes back to 116 to 118. And I think the momentum people are really tried to push that yesterday, and usually that bodes well for the coming days. If it has another big update today, then it's extended, and then we'd look for some consolidation.